This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have a good neighbor with us, and it's Trent Mayers of Wine Journeys. What's going on?
Oh, just sitting here in front of my computer, working away. Can't drink wine all the time.
Wouldn't that be the best, if that was acceptable? Yeah, we were talking right before we came on. I had just enough time between the show to just quickly run down to go take a peek at that solar eclipse, and with the cloud cover and everything, what an awful waste of all that hype that they had going on. I was so excited waking up this morning over something so dumb, and it was terrible when I went out to see it. I didn't get to see it.
Just a little underwhelming, but yeah.
It's like, I feel like it was going to rain or something out there. It was just dark and overcast and disgusting. I'm like, this isn't winter. It doesn't even feel like winter. It just looks like winter. It's terrible.
We'll get to see it on television, whatever.
So we've had a chance to see each other pretty frequently, definitely on a monthly basis, if not on a bi-weekly basis. I feel like we see each other big on the networking side of things and getting out there and meeting businesses and stuff like that. So I know a little bit of what you do, but for our listeners who don't, why don't we dive right in, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Well, Wine Journeys is a very sort of specialized event business. I like to look at it. I'm a wine expert, but I've been a lover of wine and food probably for over 40 years. I won't say how long over 40, but it's wine. Wine is just something that I think is really important to me. It's something that makes life better. It's even better when you pair it with the right foods. So I like to hold these events for everywhere from I've done 6 people in homes right through I've done 150 people at a conference. To me, it doesn't make much difference. As long as the people love wine and food, I'm happy to hang out with them.
Really cool. So let's say, I'm going to be naive here, right? Okay, I'm interested. I like what you just had to say. Kind of walk me through a little bit more detail in terms of like what that looks like.
What it usually looks like is usually I start with a menu. It could be from a chef in a restaurant. If I'm running a public event, it could be from someone who's cooking at home. And I usually ask them to do, 3 or 4 courses. And then when they give me that, I'll start thinking about wines to pair with them. And then what I do is I'll show up with the wine and my glassware. Not many people have enough glassware to pour 4 different wines for even 6 guests. And I'll pour the wine, but I'll talk about it. I'll talk a little bit about the story the wine has. I'll tell them maybe a little bit about the winemaker or the winery or the grapes or the region it's from. Everyone loves wine, but they don't know much about it. So I just like to share a little bit of that. And then I'll talk about why I paired it with the food, how it complements it or contrasts with it, and basically why I chose that, so that people can have a little more insight into wine and food pairings, because I really think that's all the difference between me and anyone else is it's like anything else. When you're an expert, you just know a little bit more than everybody else. So you just share that, and all of a sudden dining becomes a great experience.
Yeah, well said. I mean, anybody who's going to get a full, history session on what they're about to eat or drink certainly helps, because that jogs the minds and makes the sensations a lot more heightened from that perspective. And also, like you said, knowing how to pair the right wines with the right food makes that even that much more of an experience.
Yeah, and the experience is so important, because I think that's what I think people are really missing out when they dine now. Is that some people seem to just be so much for hurry. They do nothing but eat and run. And to me, that it's so important to slow down and just savor that wine and that food and get that moment, that little bit of separation from the rest of the day. It really is a mindful experience if you let it be. It's just most people don't think about it that way. It really, like I say, it's one of the greatest experiences in life to eat good wine and good food.
No, totally. I mean, living in the moment's a big thing. A lot of people don't do it. I'm being taught that right now on how to do that more effectively. And it's, for most people, if you haven't had something tragic happen in your life, that make you think about it, start making it appreciate it. You just kind of take it for granted. And I think that's just a human nature thing. It's not until you get shown that, you're able to start thinking in a different way, or train the mind in this case, which I'm doing for myself. And I just had a guest on the show, and we got pretty deep into something that tragically happened in his life. And it was kind of, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't take things for granted. And then now I'm talking to you on the show and you're like, don't take it for granted. Enjoy your food, enjoy your wine. And like, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing, but it can provide so much enjoyment. Like I say, if people just let it be.
Very cool. So have you always you said you've always enjoyed food and wine, but what's your journey been like? Were you always doing this? Were you doing something before? And how did you get into doing what you're doing?
I've had quite an interesting journey. This all started back when I was finishing my master's of science degree in microbiology back a long time ago. And I was looking at two different career paths. I was looking at wine because I was already in love with wine then. I didn't know as much about it then as I do now, but I still loved wine then and loved food. And the other career path I was looking at was pharmaceuticals. And it so happened, when you get your first job out of school, I happened to get a job in pharmaceuticals. And I followed that path for over 30 years, 35 years, I guess. And then it came to an end. And instead of looking for another position in pharmaceuticals, I thought, you know what? How many people, when you come to that fork in the road, get to try the other path that you never tried, that take that other journey?
Right.
So that's what I did. I started thinking of how can I share this love of wine and food with other people and make their lives, I think, better by sitting down and enjoying some good wine and good food.
That's cool. That's a really cool story. What are you normally getting from people when they finally kind of realize that they've been missing out on a crazy experience like you pretty much deliver every time?
I think I always say I see the light go on in their eyes when they get it. They try that really great wine with that really perfectly paired with food. That it's just, I just love seeing that in people, and I love hearing from them too. My favorite story is people come to my events, and I've chosen the wine, so invariably some of them will sit down and say, "Oh, I don't drink red wine," or "I don't drink white wine." I said, "Well, you're here at the event. I'm going to pour some for you. Try a little bit. If you don't like it, no problem. No problem. I won't be offended, but I'll come back around after you've tried some of the wine food and we'll see what you think." And I'm always pleasantly surprised by how many people I said, "I wouldn't have ever bought that wine or paired it with this food, but it's amazing." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "What do you think now?" I said, I do it. I thought I didn't like this, but I actually do like it. And I think that's just a factor of people live inside their comfort zone. And when you're a professional, like I'm outside, I have much of a comfort zone when it comes to wine and food. I try almost anything, but people aren't like that. And so just by exposing them to it, you get them outside the comfort zone. And sometimes they get to discover some great new things.
Yeah. I mean, discovery and finding something new that you liked, especially if you didn't think you liked it before, that's a really fun human emotion and an experience to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my favorite one was I find one of the foods that really puts people off. If you want to see people on both sides of the fence on something, put out some blue cheese. I love it. My wife hates it, and that's the way people are with it. But the perfect pairing for it is really a sweet wine like a late bottle vintage port. And I poured it in an event, and I had so many people come up and say, "Well, I don't really eat blue cheese, and I certainly don't drink port." And I said, "We'll try the two together." And I saw a lot of lights go on that night.
That's cool. I'm a big food guy. Blue cheese, I was the same way for like a good portion of my life, like more than half, like 3/4 of my life. And it wasn't until, I don't know, I'd say maybe about a good 5, and then maybe 7 years ago, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to try it and try it again and try it again. And I like it now.
Yeah.
Hard taste.
Yeah. Like I say, it's something, like I say, that people try something, in their past, and they make a judgment on things, and it happens with wine and it happens with food. and they generalize it then. And that's part of what I want to break down, is that you tried one white wine or two white wines 10 years ago and you didn't like them. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different white wines out there. I'm sure there might be some you like if we just hit the right one.
Yeah, totally. Very cool. What do you get from people out there, like misconceptions, any misnomers?
So the funniest thing I think I found is people, one of the questions people asked me was, when I start describing wine, I'll sometimes describe the fruit essence of it. So I'll say it'll have blackberries, or there's some wines that actually have even aromas and a little bit of flavor of banana in them and things like that. And I've had people ask me, how do they put the fruit in the wine? And I'm there, like I said, it's not as complicated as that. It actually comes from the grapes and the fermentations. It's just naturally occurring. They don't have to put the fruit in the wine. That's just the way it develops. But that's one of the questions I've got out there that I found kind of unusual. But I never thought of it, because you're always describing all these different fruits, and some people thought, oh, they must put those in the wine. Don't need to.
Yeah, it's quite a process. I've made homemade wine. We've got an authentic Italian family that is family friends of ours, and their parents have been making wine for a really long time. And we got to make it this one year. We made it, and it's really fun to make, crushing all the grapes. And so we've got the grape crushers and fermenting it, stuff like that, and then the bottling process. And of course, you get to sample it and hold it through that process. So we did it one year. This is back 4 years ago. And it was a bottle that we had made the year prior to, and we only had one left. We nailed it that year. It was better than most of the wines that we actually bought typically, other than the high-end ones at the liquor store. And then for the next 3 years in a row, we missed the mark and then stopped making it. We'll never be able to go back and make it that good. I just remember we were sitting around the campfire it was the last 2 bottles. And so, between my sisters and my parents, there's 5 of us. So you're getting a glass and a quarter, and so it was so good that day. And it was like 5 o'clock, 4:30, like the sun passed the trees, but still warm outside. A perfect setting. The wine was just so good. And we ran inside to see if we could find another bottle. And sure enough, there was one left. So we asked if we should save it for another time. And everybody's hand went up and said, let's just do it now. And it was a great experience.
Yeah. So sometimes, save it. You can save your bottles for too long, and then they'll be past their peak. So sometimes you should just crack them open and enjoy them.
I love it. Totally would agree with you there. Okay. So when for most people who are listening to this, like, what you do sounds like a lot of fun. You're pairing wine together, you're eating good food, you're helping others do that. So, but when you're not doing that, because that's your business, when you're not doing that, what do you like to do for fun?
I like a couple of things for fun. I'm a traveler, although a lot of my travel centers around wine and food as well. But I do like to travel. I also practice martial arts. I do kung fu and tai chi, which is a little bit of good for fitness, but also good. We were talking about mindfulness earlier. Very good for that as well. So I like that in my life as well. It just adds another dimension.
Yeah, I know a little bit about kung fu. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm naive in this. Maybe you could do a little educating my way, and probably for the listeners who are not overly familiar with it. But that's really kind of focusing yourself on where you're in the moment, and it's a lot of movements, right, that you're kind of doing out there.
Yeah, it's a lot of you're trained how to do movements, and like I say, the movements are good for your fitness and your flexibility. They're also good for self-defense, because it was designed for hand-to-hand fighting. But most of us practice it now for its health benefits. But that doesn't mean you can't use it if someone jumps you in an alleyway. They might get a little bit of a surprise. So.
Yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall watching you just give somebody a karate chop. That would be so cool.
It's a little surprising, especially when you see I train with a lot of people who are my age or older, and I would not want to surprise them.
Yeah, what a cool skill to have. Definitely admire having something like that. It's on my bucket list eventually to learn an art or a skill like that. Just like you said, for your own peace of mind, have that defensive skill set is admirable. I enjoy it, and the health benefits like you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Good to stay healthy, get fit. Especially since you're a spring chicken, so certainly important.
Yeah, and it's never too late to take it up. I didn't take it up until I was 48, so okay. I started training at 48. Most people start training when they're kids.
That's awesome. Okay, so we'll switch gears a little bit, something a little bit more on the serious side. We never really get to pick. We try to pick a path, right? Like you're saying, you had that fork in the road, right? Pharmaceutical, and then you got to go back and take another path. But through that path, there's other paths that we walk on the in this game of life, and sometimes you try to have good intentions, you try to go a certain way, and then the universe kind of throws you for a loop, and you take a hard Larry, or you get cards that are not the best, and they get given to you, and you're forced to play them. I found that the resilience in people has been the most fascinating to see, because you never wish anything, like a life challenge or a hardship on anybody, but we go through these as human beings. And what we learn from it, trying to find these silver linings to push past that and to carry on, is what I find super fascinating in humans. So I wanted to ask you if you've ever experienced a life hardship or a challenge that you've had to overcome, and maybe a silver lining or two that came from that.
Yeah. My business is fairly young. It's only about 6 years old. So about a year and a half after I started it, we hit COVID. And COVID was, quite frankly, a disaster for the hospitality industry. And I'm just part of the hospitality industry. It was, it came out of nowhere. We were all shut down. We weren't connecting with people like we usually do. We weren't earning any revenue. And it made us sort of rethink, how can we reinvent ourselves to survive in this kind of strange new world? And what I did was, one of the restaurants I work with and I set up a online version of wine and food pairing, where they'd go to the restaurant, they'd pick up the food, they'd pick up the wine,
cool.
bottles, and then the chef would get on from the restaurant and explain how to finish the preparation. So instead of getting a food in a styrofoam box, it's not as good an experience. He'd have them finish off the last maybe 10 or 20% of it in their kitchen. Then we'd serve it, and then they'd pour the wine. Then I'd talk about the wine. We do this all over Zoom. And we would have some nights we'd have 20 or 30 people online. You'd be going around all around like the Hollywood squares, watching them all. And it wasn't something we ever planned to do, but it was something that was really rewarding to do during COVID, because it helped connect people.
Right.
People would stay on for 2.5 hours, 3 hours just talking. And it was good for us that we had a little bit of business, but I think it was good for everyone. And I think that's, if you can look for a silver lining out of something like COVID, it really showed us how important it was to connect to people, and how important that was, not just for me. It's important for everyone. And I think it really built some really good relationships. Funny, you build them online, and now I've met the people in person, and that relationship just continues. It's kind of
be a cool experience.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome to like I say, to meet them in the virtual world, and now I know them in the real world.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty cool thing, that some people, obviously not the COVID aspect of it, but getting to finish the 10 or 15% or 20% left of that meal, to, because they put a little bit of their own effort into it, even though, most of it's kind of already done. I bet that did a lot for making that connection even much, making them feel more invested almost in what they're doing.
Oh yeah, the people used to bring their cell phones or iPads into the kitchen, so they'd have one set up on the dining room table, and they'd have one set up in the kitchen, so that they could continue interacting even when they were the chef could give them instructions. Will would give them instructions as they were going, even, and they'd talk back and forth. It was great. Like I say, it gave people that human connection they really needed at that point. So
that's cool. Spreading that goodwill. I love it. What's one thing that you wish that our listeners knew about your business?
I wish they knew it wasn't as serious as some people think. I think a lot of people have got used to the wine snob, and I've met them in my life. There's a lot of people, sommeliers out there, who have an attitude and look down on people, and that is not the way you really enjoy an experience. It makes the experience terrible. And it's something that I swore I would never do. I want people to enjoy it. I want them to have fun. I want them to ask questions. I want them to feel they're a part of this, that I'm not there to lecture them. I'm there to be a part of them sort of growing and learning a little more about wine and food. So it's, there's some things I really don't like about the wine industry, and that's one thing I've just tried never to do.
No, that's good to know, so that everybody listening, and too, and I spent a lot of time around you as well too. I'm looking forward to the dinner thing that I can't make public yet, that we run to eventually. will be a lot of fun when we get to do that, and maybe a couple private dinners here and there too. So, but knowing all that information, I'd encourage people who are listening now to get out there and try something new. Try to have have a professional like Trent come in and do something nice and have that experience. I mean, that's what the show embodies, is that human element, the connecting with people, connecting on a deeper level. That happens through conversation. It happens through good food, good wine, and good company. And you get to do that for a living. So very cool.
Yeah, that's the motto I go with, is good wine, good food, good company, and I try to live by it. And like I say, I've made a lot of friends and doing this. It's just a great thing to do. I love it.
Excellent. And if anybody who's listening is interested in wanting to learn more, wanting to maybe set something up or get some more information, what would be the best way that they could do that?
They can reach out to me through my my Facebook page, Wine Journeys Facebook page. I have my winejourneys.ca website, or they can email me if they want to, Trent@winejourneys.ca, and I'm happy to chat with anyone about wine and food. Whether we get to having an event or not, I'm always happy to have the conversation.
Beautiful. Yeah, never a dull moment when you're talking about wine and food. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Great conversation, great person, great business, and looking forward to doing this down the road.
Thanks, Sean. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.